I too am rising to oppose Bill 1. And I'll start, Mr. Speaker, by saying that I am a proud Albertan and a proud Canadian, and I know that the constituents of Banff-Kananaskis are proud Albertans and proud Canadians, Mr. Speaker. I believe that two things can be true. You can be both of those things, and I know that my constituents feel this way because they stop me in the street. I live in a small rural town, I live in a rural riding, and so the members opposite who also represent rural ridings will know and appreciate how special it is when people stop you in the street or stop you at Save-On when you're buying eggs and milk just to tell you how passionate they feel about XYZ. And this last summer, the #1 thing that people stopped me in the street to tell me was that they were proud Albertans and proud Canadians, and they wanted us in this House to stand and fight for Alberta and Canada together. This bill contributes to that separatist rhetoric that is damaging not only economic investment in this province and confidence in investing in this province, but it's also damaging the cultural fabric of who we are. I know that the relationship between Alberta and Ottawa is strained. I've lived in this province my whole life. I know all about it. I hear all about it all the time. But what I don't hear about is solutions coming from this government to Ottawa that are any kind of meaningful solutions that will actually improve our relationship with the federal government and make sure that Alberta is treated fairly. Newsflash, Mr. Speaker, every province wants to be treated fairly by the federal government. Every single province wants their fair share. All of us want that. How we work together and how we negotiate to get that for our constituents is what Albertans want. Albertans aren't looking to separate. They're not looking to pick another fight with Ottawa. They're not looking to play this blame game anymore, Mr. Speaker. They're looking for solutions, and that's not something that this government is bringing forward. And quite frankly, I'm tired of it, and so are my constituents. Instead of focusing on doing what is right for Albertans and what is right for this province, this government is focused on passing another piece of useless legislation that picks a fight with Ottawa needlessly. So what is right for Albertans, Mr. Speaker? What are Albertans telling us? Well, what's right for Albertans is public education, public health care, evidence-based decision-making, and ethical, competent government. And we don't have that right now. Last week, 38,000 parents, teachers, and students stood outside this legislature, singing, dancing, chanting, being generally amazing after the throne speech. And were any of those Albertans asking for a bill that asserts provincial authority to opt out of international agreements? I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but no, I didn't hear anybody asking about that at that rally. They were asking for support for teachers. Support for teachers to address classroom size and classroom complexity. How did this government respond? Yesterday, we passed legislation forcing teachers back to work without actually fixing any of the problems that caused them to strike in the first place. So how are we expecting that to end, Mr. Speaker? Were those protesters asking for the Alberta government to debate and pass into law federal government agreements before they take effect? No, that didn't come up, oddly, when I was out there talking to all of them. They were asking for smaller class sizes and an increase to per-student funding, which, as many of my colleagues have repeatedly iterated, is the lowest in the country. The government response to those requests, Mr. Speaker, was to invoke the notwithstanding clause and remove rights and freedoms. Shame. Shame. I am a proud Albertan. I cannot underscore that enough. I love this province with every cell and fibre of my being. And last night, I sat in this chamber shamed, appalled, and embarrassed of what we have become. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms is a federal piece of legislation. It's a constitutional document that guides governance in the land, and Bill 1 speaks directly to how we implement federal and international agreements. And so I do think that these two ideas are connected. And I will say that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is one of the most sacred laws of the land, as is the Alberta Human Rights Act and other things that protect our human rights. That is related to Bill 1, Mr. Speaker. And so for a government so focused on constitutional law, as Bill 1 tries to reinforce, when they're picking fights with Ottawa, obeying constitutional law and making sure that things are constitutional is of top priority, which is essentially what Bill 1 is trying to do. But when it's about protecting the bargaining rights of Albertans and allowing the freedoms and rights that are enshrined in federal law to exist here, there is a hypocrisy that is deep and running through this conversation that I cannot abide, Mr. Speaker. Alberta strong and free, but not for everybody and not all the time. Mostly just for people who agree with this government, and as long as they don't ruffle feathers or dissent, it's Alberta strong and free. Is Alberta strong and free a thing, Mr. Speaker, or is it just a slogan on a license plate? When I went door knocking this summer, Mr. Speaker, the people of Banff-Kananaskis weren't asking me for the government to repeal the International Trade and Investment Agreements Implementation Act, which is a part of Bill 1. To be fair, I'm not sure most Albertans know that that act exists. People were asking me about public health care, more access to it, more doctors, this government's questionable decisions regarding private surgical facilities. The government response to those needs of Albertans, Mr. Speaker, those aren't reflected in the first bill either. The throne speech talks about no more hospitals and privatizing aspects of health care instead. This Bill 1 is the government telling Albertans that their #1 priority is getting in the way of federal and international agreements, something which nobody is asking for, Mr. Speaker. I truly believe it is possible to stand up for Alberta and to get a fair deal, whatever that means, without passing needless pieces of legislation that literally get in the way of doing good work. These pieces of legislation, it's like shooting ourselves in the foot every day. We talk all the time about how we want to work better with the federal government, and then we pass pieces of legislation that are literally thumbing our nose at the federal government. Why? Why do we keep doing this? Why are we wasting our time debating this bill that's actually kind of useless? Last night, we time allocated all of Bill 2. We had limits on debate. We passed and rammed that bill through in a whole entire evening, and here we are debating this when we should have had more time to debate Bill 2 yesterday. So, what I will say is that this Bill #1 is not Albertans' #1 priority. It isn't about going back to the bargaining table to find a fair deal with teachers. It isn't about finding a way to not violate bargaining rights. It isn't about ensuring Albertans know the truth about private surgical facilities. It's not honouring the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is a federal document. It's not supporting public health care by bringing more doctors or more hospitals to the province. And it's not addressing affordability through groceries, insurance, and housing. This bill is not serving the people, Mr. Speaker, and neither is this government. Yeah.